you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Dollar or something. You $1 or something. Something. Why you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Dollar or something. Get you $1 or something. Something. Why you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Dollar or something. $1 or something. 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 Something.
We'll give it 3 seconds. Thank you, Scott. And this is the world's greatest photography podcast, and I am your host, Phil Howard. You can catch us on all the podcast platforms as well as on YouTube every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at Conscious Creative Media. That's CRE8IVE. And today we're here with real estate photographer and videographer and editor Gerald Bertram of GeraldBertram.com, or excuse me, of BertramPhotography.com. And you can also find him on Instagram at Bertram_photo or on Facebook at Bertram Photography. And Gerald, for the homes that you shoot in your area, you said you mainly do Chesterfield and Richmond. What's the average size house?
So I have shot everything from like barely 1,000 square feet to, I think on the larger end, about, let's say 2,800 to 3,200 square feet in this area. The houses that I work with my partner in Northern Virginia, those could be little condos that are like, 500 square feet. Or not too long ago, we shot one for a Major League Baseball player. And I think that one was somewhere around, I want to say it was about 8,000 square feet. So pretty much from your, like I said, tiny little apartments to your way over the top houses.
Now, without going into your prices, do you have different pricing structures based on square footage or based on sale price, or how do you work that stuff out? Because that's a big question we always hear from people looking to get into the industry.
Sure. Our pricing, both his and mine, depending on whoever's shooting, it's based on time. So we try to, most of the houses we usually can get done between the 1 hour to the hour and a half mark. And so
that's not editing, that's just shooting?
Right, that's just shooting. That's on site, running around with the cameras. Obviously, your bigger homes that are, 8,000 or whatever square feet, we might end up being there from 2 to 3 or more hours. And so our prices reflect that sort of hourly rate. But for the most part, my agents know that these houses within this certain sizes that I'm going to be able to get in and out of there within an hour and a half. And that's sort of my cutoff for your typical homes. Like I said, everything from 1,000 to like say 2,800 square feet. It's important to get in and out of there as quickly as possible because usually the agents are there. Sometimes the homeowner is there. But it's important to, the agents don't want to hang around because they've got nothing to do. You're running around busy, but they don't want to be there. So the quicker you can get out of that house, the happier the agent is. And even if that means I have to spend a little bit more time in editing, so be it. It's all about making things as convenient as possible for whoever's there, be it the homeowner or the agent. So getting in and out is vital. And we might mention this later, but one really important thing that reminded me when we talked about the time on site, especially if you haven't shot a lot for this particular agent, almost as important, if not even more important than the quality of your photos, is your attitude when you're on site. Your chit-chat game has got to be on point, because if you're just dull or you're silent or you don't say a word, or you could potentially even come off as rude, that agent, no matter how beautiful your pictures are, that agent's never going to call you again. It's just the way it is. But if you have a good personality, you're open, you're talking back and forth with the agent, and that does get challenging sometimes. You're trying to lock down everything on your camera, exposure, whatnot. But you really need to be interacting with that agent at the same time, because if he walks away out of that house when you're done and said, hey, he was a good guy, I enjoyed working with him, you're gonna get more work from him. Even if your pictures weren't absolute stunners, if he liked you and had a good time working with you, you're going to get that call again. And that's 100% happened with me. I've been in a house where I was having an off day and the pictures weren't my best, but I had a great conversation with the agent and I'm still shooting for him. So, keeping your time on site minimal as much as possible, but also being as friendly as possible where you're there, are both of those as important, if not more important, than the quality of the photos that you're producing, at least in my experience.
And it actually brings up a couple of points there I want to maybe talk with you about. But exactly, if photography is very unique in that you can get your initial job by what you shoot. Nobody has seen you. They don't know what color you are. They don't know what sex you are or anything. All they know is those are nice, clean images. But once you get that face-to-face and can get that first impression, that is what can keep you coming back. And one thing to note, it's a whole lot harder for somebody to say no to somebody in their face than it is on an email or on a text
That's
message.
very true. That's very true.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to mention it, like you said, that face-to-face is hard to say no to. One of my big negatives about myself is I am a horrible salesperson. My wife tells me all the time I should think better of myself. You take great pictures. Why aren't you, more positive about yourself? I hate pitching myself. I'm just not good at it. I'm not a salesman. I'm a fairly decent photographer. So, especially when you're starting to get new clients, that's pretty difficult for me because it's, like I said, I have a really hard time pitching myself. So it can be a challenge for sure. At least it was in my experience. But pushing through that and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, like getting that face-to-face in front of the client and trying to put your best foot forward, putting your personality out there, it's vital, man. It's everything. It's everything.
And in today's world, do not mention politics.
No. Keep that conversation as light as possible. Talk about family, talk about your kids. Another little trick when you first meet your agent, find out if they have kids, get them talking about it, see if they'll mention their names. Record those names in your brain. When you shoot again for them, hey man, how's Jimmy, how's Sally, or whatever. People love that. That shows them that you are listening to them, and that will, I've done that before, and that makes a big difference. So keeping it very light, very open, and remember personal details. Again, at least for me, for real estate photography, it's all about your personality. If you're friendly with the agent, that's going to go a long way.
And in my prior life, I was in automotive service management, and in our database where we would bring up the customer by the vehicle identification number, for instance, but we had a notes section where we could type in, during the last visit, such and such was going to go see his son play in the championship soccer game. So then when we had another appointment, we could read over that past one and know to ask, well, how did that championship game go? And have that eyes wide open excitement. How did that game go? And you're like their best friend at that point. And,
absolutely.
And they became, in that case, they became what we called key tossers, meaning they tossed you the keys and said, do whatever you need to do. And the same thing can happen with real estate as well, especially if you know your game as far as real estate with your videography, twilight shoots, what have you. If you know your game and you are well-rounded in your conversations, you can build a great relationship.
You can, and it's Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to go into another question, but go ahead, and then I'll follow up with that.
I was just going to mention, like I said, the personality is everything, but you can't flex those muscles until you've got that face to face. So certainly the big challenge when you're starting out is how to get there. And I know you mentioned it with the other real estate guy you had on. You talked about how to go about getting new clients. A little trick that seems to have worked for me is, I will go through, the listings online, Zillow or whatever, or even browsing some of the real estate listings on Facebook, and I check out their pictures, see what they've got. And you'll see the ones that were probably most likely taken with a cell phone by the agent or even the homeowner maybe. And so I key in on those. And I can, the very beginning, what I would actually do is I would actually kind of drive by the house, especially if it was vacant. If someone was living there, this was not a good idea. But if the house was currently vacant and on sale on market, I might drive by, stop for a sec, take a really nice single exterior shot from the street, don't go on property or anything. And then I would later reach out to that agent, say, hey, saw you had this listing for sale. It's a great listing. I think I could help you out with your photos for it. I happen to be driving by, saw it. Here's a shot I took of the exterior. I would love to shoot this for you. And in the beginning, if you're first time with that agent, 100% do it for free. Say, you know what? I know you're going to love my work. I'll shoot this property for you 100% free. You have nothing to lose except a little bit of your time. And it's worked well. That seems to have worked fairly well for me. And now these days I'll do the same thing, sort of scour the listings, look for houses that may not have great shots, except now it's just a very short message, whether it's on social media, email, however I get in touch with them. And just say, hey, I think I can help you out with your photos. Here's my website. You can look at some of the work that I've done. Be happy to shoot this one for you, free of charge. It's a couple hours out of my day, which is worth it if you can potentially get a client that you might end up having for years to come. So a couple little things that I do when I'm trying to get those face-to-faces. Well,
that brings me to another question too, is when you shoot a house, there was again, on social media, became a big argument back and forth about whether you can shoot the house if you're the only one there or if you require an agent or a homeowner to be there. I prefer not having anybody there so I can get through the house quickly. But what are your thoughts?
100%. If I don't have to do the chit chat, I can get in and out so much quicker. I can concentrate on what I'm doing. It's just a zero stress situation. Unfortunately, I don't get a ton of those. A lot of times, either the house is still occupied, so the homeowner's there, or the agent has to come by and let me in. Thankfully, I have a couple of agents who are just like, hey, I've got this listing here. Here's the lockbox code. Go for it. But until you get that kind of a relationship with your agents, unfortunately, you'll probably be shooting with the agent there a lot of time. It does give you the opportunity to get, more of that face-to-face time and work on your chit-chat and, asking about their lives and stuff. But if I have the choice, 100%, I would love to be there by myself.
And the argument to have someone there with you is obviously they don't want the homeowner to come up and say, hey, I'm missing something. Do you provide background checks to any of your agents?
That's honestly never once come up. That makes sense. I understand how it could happen, but I don't think ever once. I'm trying to think. I think every home that I've shot that's been occupied, I'm fairly certain the agent has been with me. No, there's been a couple. I've had a couple where it was just the homeowner. It's never come up. A lot of times the homeowners, unfortunately, are going to be following you around, and it never fails. They're always asking me, oh, what kind of camera is that? How long have you been doing this? Why are you shooting it from this angle? Or the sort of really needy homeowners who are like, oh, make sure you get this and this, and please shoot this from over here. And, you have to do all those things to keep them happy. But Yeah, I've never run into a situation where, there was concern about, oh, could something end up missing or anything. I'm sure it's probably does happen, but it's nothing. I've never experienced it before.
I've shot a vacation rental in the past in which I was getting paid X amount, and this was in Pittsburgh, so this is a good ways away from where I am. But I was doing a whole bunch of properties up there for this company, and the homeowner had bugged my contact enough, the company that I was shooting for, that that person just gave the homeowner my number. And so he called and was telling me, make sure I shoot this, make sure I shoot that, and went on and on and on. And even got to the point he was asking me to make sure that I did some shots of the ski slopes that are nearby, which were 45 minutes away.
Oh, oh,
And the worst thing, I walked in the house. The sink was piled full of dishes up past the
oh
faucet.
no.
I took
Oh,
all,
man.
I started to wash some of the dishes, and then I found a large pan. I threw everything in the large pan and stuck that in the cabinet. And then I went into one of the bedrooms, and it did not even have sheets or anything on it. I mean, it was just
Ooh,
enclosed in the corner, so it was just a nightmare. But
oh, it
sometimes,
happens.
either
It does. It happens.
either I fix it or I don't get paid. That's the bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't present a picture with like a file cabinet sitting in the middle of a room. And that's happened before. The house was supposed to be vacant, but the person left stuff there. And there was a big file cabinet, 50, 60-pound file cabinet in the middle of this room. I can't shoot it. I'm going to have to move it. So, drag it off to the side so it's out of the shot. And that, so I've definitely had that happen a few times. And it's, homeowner expectations certainly can get unrealistic. And so it's important. I actually have a sheet that I give to all my agents. And, if the house is still occupied, I said, make sure it's basically a checklist to say, okay, toilet lids are down. Everything has been cleaned up, swept, freshly vacuumed. It's just a nice big checklist so they can give that to the homeowner and say, hey, photographer's coming by here Tuesday. Here's the kind of stuff that we want to make sure is done so that when he gets here, he can get, beautiful photos and, get out of your hair as quickly as possible.
Now, I was going to kind of go into this on segment 3, but since you mentioned that, I'll go ahead and hit it now, and then we'll touch back in segment 3 as well. But if I'm only going there with the homeowner, in other words, the agent's not there or the agent's going to arrive later, the first thing I do is I introduce myself, tell them, who I am and what I'm doing, and make sure they're expecting me, because that's the one thing you don't want is, and I've actually been given the wrong address before, so the person looked dumbfounded, and then, we were able to figure it out. But I let them know how long it's going to take me. I let them know that I need, and I'm going to ask you what your preferences are. I let them know that I want all lights on, all ceiling fans off, all toilet seats down. And anywhere that you have a sink, hide the soap. So if it's in the kitchen, in the bathroom, whatever, hide the soap. I don't want to see that on the edge of the counter. And I let them know that I'm going to fire. Usually I'll do a 3 bracket or a 5 bracket. I'll let them know that when I press the button, it's going to fire 3 straight times or 5 straight times. So don't watch me hit the button and decide you can come in the room. And I let them know the angles I'm going to shoot. That way they have a full expectation of what I can do. Then I can chit chat with them, whatever, without having to say, hey, I need you to move. And if I do say, hey, I need you to move, they're expecting it. So do you have that same type of spiel when you come in to set the expectations of what you're going to do if you're just there with the homeowner?
A little bit. I'll definitely go into mentioning some of those things that you mentioned, make sure toilet seats are down, that kind of stuff. Lights on, ceiling fans off, and some little things like that. But I don't usually mention what exactly I'm doing as far as the camera goes or lighting up. Basically, I tell them, okay, I'm going to start upstairs and slowly work my way down, and that kind of seems to work where they know, okay, if he's going upstairs, that means I need to stay downstairs and stay out of the way. It's been funny. I haven't had to mention much to the homeowner about, can you move or whatever. I just, I'll shoot upstairs, usually by myself. I'll come down and say, okay, I'm going to shoot this room. And everyone just seems to kind of be under the understanding, okay, I don't want to be in the picture. And they kind of move out of the way. But inevitably, I will get the homeowners that want to know what I'm doing. So even if I've given them sort of the detail up front, they're still going to be over my shoulder asking, okay, what are you doing? Why, why did you shoot so many shots? And that's that trick I was talking about before about having really good chit chat game, because the last thing you want to do is come off rude to the homeowner, because that's definitely going to get back to the agent and you're going to lose that agent. So you have to be 100% friendly as possible. You have to be able to communicate with that homeowner who's asking questions, but also be able to know what you do on the camera, which is sort of brings up the point about how you need to know your equipment inside and out. You need to know what every menu setting is. You need to know what
you don't want to
is
look
on
lost.
your camera.
You're the expert.
Exactly. You need to be able to do this stuff in pitch dark. You like you said, you are there, you're being paid because you are the expert in this. But like I said, you have to be able to sort of do those two tasks, be a multitasker, and being able to do everything you need to do on the camera, but also be talking to the homeowner at the same time, or the agent.
Well, we are with Gerald Bertram of BertramPhotography.com. You can also find him on Instagram at Bertram_photo, or on Facebook at Bertram Photography. And you can also catch us on any of your podcast sites, or catch us on YouTube every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at Conscious Creative Media, CRE8IVE. And we talked about how long it takes you to shoot a house. How many images do you put out? Let's say for an average 3-bedroom, 2-bath, family room, den, and kitchen, and small dining area.
So the smaller houses, like I recently did one that was about a little over 1,000 square feet. So I think that was about, I want to say that was about 18 images. For your more typical size home, your 2,000 square foot plus, basically your 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath kind of home, I'll overshoot, and I might end up sending the agent as many as between 40 and 50 shots, because a lot of times, like for every bedroom, I'm getting minimum of 2 angles. And then living room and kitchen, which, your kitchen is one of the selling points of the home. So there might be, 5 or 6 or 7 different shots there. It's been my experience that my agents like to be able to choose what I'm giving them. So I'll overshoot a little bit. Again, it doesn't take that much extra time to get, potentially a different angle. And so the average size home, I could give them as many as 50 images, and they'll end up picking their favorite, 16 or 17 images to put on MLS or their other sites that they utilize. So I know I shoot more probably than most, but that just seems to what's worked out well for me.
Well, again, we're finishing up segment 2 of the World's Greatest Photography Podcast. And again, you can catch us on any of the podcast sites. We're on Conscious Creative Media at CRE8IVE. You can listen to segment 3 on Friday. And at the end of this on YouTube, you can click the little button and it'll show segment 1. But this is the World's Greatest Photography Podcast, and we're with guest Gerald Bertram.
Why you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Something. Get you $1 or something. Why you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Something. Get you $1 or something. Something.